All right, Woody, thank you. Kyle Krabs, host of Locked On Fins and NFL analyst for A to Z Sports, joins us this morning. 4 straight wins, a lot of really good numbers, including, I call them good winter numbers with the run defense, the overall defense are playing, not giving up a lot of points, and even maybe more impressive has been the running game over the last 4 weeks. It looks like a team, even with a quarterback that, I don't know what are we going to call him a game manager? What are we going to call Tua at this point? What are you calling him?
The starting quarterback of the Dolphins. And that's I don't want to put him in a bucket because you don't know what you're going to get, it feels like. So we'll just call him the starting quarterback of the Dolphins.
All right. That's safe. That's a good thing to do. So, hey, what's impressed you more? The improvement of the defense, especially the front seven, but you could the backside as well with all the takeaways, or this running game they've had here in the last 4 weeks. My God.
And I think for me, it's probably the running game. And I go to that early fourth quarter drive when they go 9 plays and 8 of them are runs, and Jalen Wright's ripping off 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards per run for like 5 straight runs. And you knew what time it was if you were the Jets. They were loading the box. According to True Media, the Dolphins this season average 4.5 yards per carry, which leads the NFL in 8-man boxes. So that's Mike McDaniel talking after the game about, at some point the other team's going to know what you're doing. They're going to know what's coming, and you have to be able to execute it anyway.
Yep.
And to be leading the league in yards per carry against heavy box counts is huge. And I think that's something we have not seen remotely close. I think in 2023, they averaged 3.7 yards per carry. They're at 4.5 this year. And I think that's a huge testament to the growth in that area and the confidence of, you go back to the Week 18 game against Buffalo in 2023 with the division on the line and think about all the success they had offensively in the first half, and then what changed in the second half. And say, they changed the defensive formations, they loaded the boxes, so we tried to pass the ball because that's what they were dictating to us based on their pre-snap alignment defensively. To be able to say, okay, that's cute, you want to load up the boxes, we're still going to run the football, I think is a huge development for Miami and the sustainability of what the run games look like the last month.
So we've talked about Austin Jackson's back at right tackle. Who's impressed you the most throughout this season, especially the last 4 weeks, though, because that's really when this team's taken off on that offensive line?
I think you've seen some pretty significant growth from Jonah Savaiinaea the last 3-4 weeks. I think he's stacked 3 very solid games together. I think Aaron Brewer has a legitimate argument to be the best center in football. And I think he's somebody who, there were gripes about the short yardage successes and failures with a smaller center. And I get that there's a correlation, but is there a causation there? And I think Brewer's just been absolutely sensational. I think he's everything you could have possibly dreamed when you signed him to play in this system, and then more with the demeanor in which he plays with. So the last 4 weeks, I'll give a nod to Jonah for the growth that we've seen. But this season as a whole, I think Brewer has been an exceptional football player for Miami.
Yeah. No, there's just been so many great things. I want to flip it over the defensive side, the 3 young guys especially. So I've been on this thing that all of a sudden Zach Sealer's playing better because he doesn't have to babysit as much with teaching and worrying about those guys, because now those guys are playing so much better. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think so. And I certainly think, one of the most impactful ways in which Zach creates disruption up front is he's an exceptional pick man when you play twists and stunts and games up front. And the rest of those guys, you could tell it's kind of been feeling out, okay, like, what's my angle out of my stance? Where am I trying to hit the guy if I'm setting the pick? If I'm trying to loop the pick, what's my exit off of my first engagement? How can I take the corner and anticipate how well I can carry momentum through there? And it's all just kind of felt like guys who haven't done it together or haven't been asked a lot to do it. But the last couple of weeks, you start to feel those guys. I watched the 2 rookies, Jordan Phillips and Kenny Grant, execute a twist stunt inside that actually worked and forced the quarterback off the spot this week. So player development and growth in all phases, I think is very relevant. And for a guy like Zach, who he had great chemistry with Christian, right? And then Christian gets replaced by
Calais
Campbell,
yeah.
who's a consummate professional who's been around the block and seen everything 10 times over. I am not surprised that Zach Sealer is starting to look a lot more like the Zach Sealer we came to expect.
Hey, Zeke Biggers got some playing time and making more and more plays. His upside looks like, now that he's starting to get a little confidence too, is there a chance he got more upside than the other two guys, maybe, when this is all said and done?
I don't know about versus Kenny, just because Kenny's got some freakish athleticism at his size and stature. And I think for Kenny, it's more about the consistency of using the hands and the consistency of the pad level. And that's applicable for Zeke. But I think Zeke's a little bit more of like a linear power player. I saw some flashes, and like, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a player that feels like what the Dolphins probably thought they could have got out of Raekwon Davis when they drafted Raekwon Davis out of Alabama, as far as like the build and the length.
Yeah. And
you can load him up with weight and you can play him in the A gaps, but you could also play him in an odd front end, which is where you've seen him playing a lot of as a 4-eye and a 3 technique on some of their interior gaps in the B gaps. So you've got some alignment versatility there. I think you could do a lot with him, but with how heavy his hands are, and now that it looks like he's gotten a little bit in the flow of the speed of the game, he's certainly, I think, going to outperform that 7th round draft status because he was raw. But that's where, if you trust your assistant coaches to bring somebody in who is a little bit raw, that's what Austin Clark's been so good at for forever. And I feel like every week we talk, we're talking about the growth of this group and Austin Clark and giving him flowers, but Zeke Biggers just continues to make plays.
Hey, getting back to Mike McDaniel, the head coach who also calls the plays offensively, he's really shown a lot of different things, man. That game against the Jets, this last game, I know it's the Jets, but he was showing 3 guys in the backfield, guys in motion, guys going different ways. I mean, it seemed like he just refused through like a quarter to show the same look twice with his motions and all the different things. And he's got guys. I mean, he just absolutely outcoached the Jets. Not that they very good anyway, but they look lost defensively with the way that game started. It got to 21-0.
Yeah, you felt like they had a great opening script. They caught a lot of cover 3, and it opened up a lot of those crossers where you could get the play action going off the run game the way that Miami did. You give them that coverage with that kind of space in the middle of the field, you're going to be in for a long possession, or I guess technically a short possession because they're going to go right down the field and score, and that's what you saw the Dolphins do. So I think the thing for me with Mike is, we've just been waiting to see how the offense was going to evolve, right? And from 22 to 23, we have that exit motion that kind of was the staple of the offense. And ever since, it's been trying to feel out how does it evolve as compared to continuing to try to get to the same spots of the field in the passing game and being a very outside zone oriented team because your play action passing is tethered to your outside zone action in the backfield. And I think for me, like that's where it was getting a little anxious. Like, okay, how are you going to evolve and do something different? And this is how it's happened. And it's not just, we're more run heavy on 1st and 10, or in neutral downs, we run the ball more. It's the concepts and the formations and the personnel. There's been a lot of evolution this year as far as the offense as a whole, some of it out of necessity. But I think when you look at Mike McDaniel's resume, as far as when we're assessing at the end of the year, who's here, who's not here, who do we trust, who do we not?
Right.
This is a big feather in his cap to finally be able to look at and point and say, I don't just have to win this one way.
Yeah.
Because that was the concern everybody has. It's the Tua McDaniel offense and everybody caught up and you don't have a different pitch or don't have a different club in your bag. Well, running the ball and blocking guys and blowing guys off the ball is football 101, and it transcends time. And the fact that they've now found this the way in which they have with the versatility that which they have, I think is really helpful for Mike.
And it's really set up nicely for December and January in the Northeast. I totally agree with you on all that stuff. So speaking of Tua, I like the way he's using them. I mean, he's putting them where he's trying to. He had a couple get away from them when they were backed up before the half there, but How do you like the way? A lot of short passes, quick hitters, things that Tua's really comfortable with. The play action, getting him out, rolling out a little bit, hitting his tight ends, especially Dulcich and Waller playing together a lot.
Yeah.
How do you like the way he's doing it? And by the way, you're not asking a guy to throw for 300 yards.
Yeah, and I love the formula of running the ball 35, 40 times. If you're able to do that, and you're taking your shots, and you're taking your play actions off of it to get some chunks, and otherwise we're distributing the football. And I think it's smart that we're running a lot of the quick game stuff. I think you go back to early in this season, and there's a lot of two-man routes downfield, 20-plus yards, trying to create explosives in the passing game with max protection. And it obviously just wasn't working, right? Like the timing wasn't there. The accuracy from Tua wasn't where it needed to be on some of those ones when you're throwing outside the numbers to the far side of the field. So, again, it's the evolution of the offense, and I think they have done well to find the kinds of concepts, even if the execution's not as precise as you'd like it to be sometimes, where there's screen throws and schemed throws to get the ball out fast and then the play action passing. The interesting thing for me, Joe, is you've heard the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talk about conviction over like perfection with the mentality of how the offense is working. And it certainly feels like that has bred this aggressive style offensively with how guys are getting off the ball and how guys are hitting blocks and how the backs are hitting gaps. And the one player I don't think that necessarily works for is Tua, because he's such a precision, timing, accuracy passer. And the timing hasn't been there too often this season as a whole. But I think that's an interesting thing for me as we continue to press onward is how does Tua play within that construct, or does it look like what it felt like at times against the Jets of, oh, maybe I have a second window to throw a ball, but we're up by several scores. I don't want to make a big mistake, so I'm just going to work the check down, because that would be my critique from Tua.
Yeah.
I don't think they asked him to do too much once they got up early, and I don't blame the box score numbers and not gaudy passing stats on Tua per se. But there were one or two instances where out that game where it was like, hey, maybe we have Jalen Waddle hitting this in-breaker across the middle, and it's middle of the field closed, and the safety's playing way off. I got a chance if I stand in here and work this thing in a second window, but instead we work the ball down to Jalen Wright and it's incomplete.
Yeah. Well, how do you like this matchup with this is stepping up in competition on the road, Monday Night Football, cold weather, all the things we've talked about here for a long, long time. Best team you played on the road late in the year for a while now. What are your thoughts?
It's everything you would want for a litmus test, right? All the narratives you could check, go right down the list.
Yep.
Can't win competitive games late in the year. Can't perform well in cold weather. Can't beat teams with winning records. Don't do well in prime time. You name it. You go right down the list. Here's all of them in one shot. So Miami, obviously, last narrative busting opportunity they had, they smoked the Bills. So go out and do it again. And I think to the point that you had earlier, Joe, the way in which they're playing, I think gives them a very good chance to win the football game. It's about going out and executing now.
Yeah. Hey, great stuff this morning. Kyle, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on as always, man.
Right on, Joe. Good talking with you.
All right. Kyle Crabbs, host of Locked On Fins and NFL analyst for A to Z Sports.